folks. On Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. tomorrow night and 8 p.m. Sunday. Two really special shows that will go to the Cable News Hall of Fame. Not because of me, because of the discussion. On Saturday night, we're going to have Ben Domenech and Stephen Miller. On Sunday night, we're going to have Victor Davis Hanson, followed by Newt Gingrich. It is really a thorough, deep dive on Biden, his speech, and the issues. You're not going to want to miss this, folks. I'm very, very proud of what we've accomplished here in these two shows in particular. So if you're not sure you're going to be around, that's why we have DVRs. You can go ahead and set it, smart TVs, right now so you don't forget. That was the dumbest, most exhausting, most pathetic, lie-filled, preposterous speech by the biggest ignoramus to ever be in the Oval Office. The people who are dancing around him, the people who are marching behind him with their heels clicking, the people with the dark shirts in the media, I think they're brown, most of them. They are a sickening group of clapping seals. They support Hamas. They hate you. They think what's going on the border is fine. They think what's going on in our streets is fine. They think the problem is you. We, the American people. That's what they think. Law-abiding, tax-paying, hard-working American people, you're the problem. The people who make the country work. Not the people on the dole. The people who make the country work. Not the people sitting their fat asses at CNN and MSNBC, the New York Times, and all the rest of the reprobates, who literally do nothing and contribute nothing to the country. Every now and then, though, even an immediate outlet like the Constipated News Network has to say something. So it's kind of 90-10. 90% cheerleader, 90% mouthpiece, 90% propagandists, the Praetorian Guard media, and 10% every now and then will throw them a crumb of a fact. That way we can say, look, we made a critical point. Joe Biden is running around the country, even as I speak, to Pennsylvania, taking credit for a reduction of over $1 trillion in spending. Over $1 trillion. He has slashed the deficit. Does that make any sense to anybody? Well, even CNN, as corrupt and pathetic as that corporation is, had to say, wait a minute, we got to call them out. This is part of our 10%. They said President Biden falsely said, and this is back, when is it? March of 2023, full year ago, that his new corporate minimum tax is the reason the federal budget deficit declined in 2021 and 2022. In reality, that tax didn't even come into effect until the beginning of 2023. But he still says it. It doesn't matter. He still says it. Like he went to see Nelson Mandela and they put him in prison. Never happened. Ever. Biden has repeatedly taken credit for reducing the deficit in 2021 and 2022, even though experts have said that the vast majority of this reduction occurred simply because the emergency COVID-19 pandemic spending from 2020 expired as planned. He did nothing. And that Biden's own initiatives made the deficits higher than they otherwise would have been. Now, everybody knows this. Everybody. And yet still, he repeats it. They said, we've described Biden's previous deficit boasts as misleading or missing key context, but he went further, and this is a year ago, in a speech in Las Vegas on lowering prescription drug costs, delivering a version of the story that just isn't true. In other words, a lie. Biden said, and by the way, everybody said, well, how was I able to have these new programs and still cut the deficit? 1.7 trillion the last 2 years. Well, it's pretty straightforward. There were 550 companies on the Fortune 500. They made $40 billion that didn't pay a penny in tax. Zero, nothing in taxes. So I said, that's outrageous. And we got votes for it. And I said they ought to pay a minimum of 15%. That's less than you all pay. And guess what? It allowed me to cut the deficit. He did the same thing last night. Now the facts. Maya McGinnis, president of the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, a group that advocates deficit reduction, noted corporations won't start paying that minimum tax until this year. This was last year. She said the fact that Biden continues to take credit for the deficit dropping between 2021 and 2022, which happened entirely due to the expiration of temporary COVID measures, is cause for concern. Guy's a friggin' liar all the time. Biden also got a key number wrong in this section of the Las Vegas speech, as he has correctly said on numerous occasions. It was 55 big companies, not 550. They didn't pay any federal income tax in their previous fiscal year. Yes, 55. Can I tell you a little secret, America? It's impossible for a major corporation not to pay taxes. What? Let me repeat that for the slow thinkers. It's impossible for a major corporation not to pay federal taxes. Now, what do I mean by that? When you purchase something, you purchase it from a business, a company, a corporation, for example. So they have to hire people. They have to hire people to produce things. They have to hire people that handle shipping and transportation. They have to hire people to take care of every aspect of the production and the provision of that product. The money goes through the corporation to the employee. The corporation is, in essence, a pass-through. Good corporate decisions expand the company. Bad corporate decisions destroy the company. But a corporation is a legal entity. The money passes through the corporation, goes to the employees and other investments and what have you, but significant parts of it go to the employees. When people strike, they strike for. And that money's used to pay their salaries, to pay their pensions, to pay their medical care, to pay all kinds of things. So obviously the corporation is paying taxes because the people who are getting paid are using that money to pay their own taxes. I'm so sick of this lie that's been going on since I could read as a little kid. Oh, that corporation didn't pay any taxes. Well, maybe on its own tax return, 55 of them, out of thousands of them, by the way, maybe 55 of them as an entity didn't pay taxes. But the idea that corporations that pay their employees who do pay taxes, payroll taxes, Obamacare taxes, all kinds of taxes, local taxes, state taxes, federal income taxes, that money comes from the corporation. It's paid to the employees who in turn pay the taxes. And so for the Marxist propagandists in the Democrat Party, for the Bernie Sanders Marxists and Reds, which Biden has now won, they will use this class warfare Marxist propaganda to cover up the debts, the ubiquitous spending, what they're doing to our children and grandchildren in future years, the massive bureaucracy, police state, if you will, that they've built that's going to have 87,000 more members at the IRS. They do this to distract you. They do this to anger you. They do this to turn one American against another. There's not an entity in the United States that hires employees that doesn't pay income taxes, certainly indirectly through their employees. because the employees don't pay taxes unless they get paid by the business. There's no taxes to pay because there's no income. So I am sick and tired of an economic illiterate who is a creature of Washington and has been for half a century, who's never had a private sector job, never developed anything, never created anything, never had a payroll, never had anything, telling us what everybody else is supposed to do. And the irony that he says they didn't pay 1 penny in taxes. When Hunter Biden has been indicted for not paying federal taxes, and I might add, Joe and Joe Biden set up 2 S corporations to run through their speech money and their book money so they wouldn't have to pay Obamacare taxes. And they wouldn't have to pay other kinds of taxes that you have to pay if you don't set up S corporations. So there's a man standing up there last night lying about the debt, lying about the deficit, lying about who does and doesn't pay taxes when his own family's filled with tax sheets, setting up S corporations to get around the paying of taxes. His son just flat out not paying taxes for which he's been indicted. And this jerk, this small-minded nincompoop, is going to lecture all the rest of us that we need much higher taxes. And what happens out of common sense when you increase the quote-unquote corporate income tax, which he wants to increase by 80%? That's the increase he's proposing. Not that they pay 80%, but an increase of 80%. What happens, America? People lose their jobs. The price of goods go up. The economy slows. But the government gets fatter, bigger, more powerful. The police state grows because it's like the mob. It is demanding more on the dollar because they can pass a law and say so. Theft, confiscatory taxes. That's now righteous. That's now good economic policy. That's now pro-American. That's now looking out for the little guy. No, it's none of those things. It's the trick of the American Marxists to steal your liberty, steal your money, to create these precarious economic conditions, and then they continue to blame others and not themselves as the economy gets further and further and further out of control. Costs go up and up and up. Inflation goes up and up and up. And we, the people, suffer.